local, regional, and international sports news. It is incumbent of me, as I end, to encourage you to always be positive in your thoughts, in your words, and in your actions. Thank you for listening.
Island bakeries, good to the last crumb for over 2 decades. We have the best sliced bread anywhere on the island. The best butter bread, cakes and pastries, and a staff that's warmer. Island bakeries, good to the last crumb. We also have island-wide delivery buses, outlets at the industrial site Bay Road and on 4th Street. Opening hours from 5 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Easy in the morning. Island bakeries, good to the last crumb. Island bakeries, good to the last crumb.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Don't throw those bottles away. Turn them into money today. Vitamalt bottles equal cash in your pocket. It's super easy. Just take those empty Vitamalt bottles to any Cara Brewery distribution truck or any drinks depot in St. Kitts and Nevis. We're keeping our beautiful Twin Island paradise clean. Vitamalt bottles equal cash back. Keep it clean, keep it green. Vitamalt bottle returns. Your bottles, your cash, your island.
the Mega Ball. You could win more with the Mega Ball. Pick 3 and pick 4 and you could get all.
Yes, playing pick 3 and pick 4 with the Caribbean Lottery just got more rewarding. Now you can win more with the Mega Ball. For just an extra $1, increase your winnings by $1,000 with the pick 3 and a big $10,000 with the pick 4. Don't wait, play today. Play pick 3 and pick 4 with the Mega Ball at Caribbean Lottery agents island-wide.
You ready to win a little extra? Then get on the ball.
Must be 21 and over to play.
A pleasant good day to you and yours. The time is approximately, well, precisely 8 o'clock. And welcome to another presentation of Island Tea with myself and you. And hoping that you are in good stead today. Let me give you the numbers that you can call if you wish to interact. And they are 466-0989, 662-0989, 762-0989. In the UK, 033-344-0065. In the US of A, 718-285-6984. In Canada, 305-921-4619. And, excuse, again, welcome to Island Tea. And I'm going to start things today with going into one of the major topics, and that is the SSZ. And I understand that last evening the PAM, the People's Action Movement, had a discussion on the very same issue and put forward what it represented, and from their own statement, who it gives power to and who are most likely to benefit from such an endeavor. Now, I'm going to play for you 3 clips. Play one, have a little bit of a discussion, play another, have a little bit of discussion, and they are all coming from Mr. Dwyer Astafan, who we know is an individual who expresses himself in terms of what he feels should happen in around the Federation and Society of St. Kitts and Nevis. And these clips relate to the SSZ. I think to a considerable extent they concur with the thinking of many of us, but as Mr. Dwyer Astafan has been a former minister of government and is also a lawyer, I think that it is quite fitting that he should express views relating to such, and that we should pay attention to what he has to say. So the first clip I'm going to play I entitled Putting the Spotlight on the Destiny Plan. Give it a listen.
This special sustainable zone matter is certainly getting special attention in this country, and rightly so, because what is being proposed here is a game changer like nothing before it in modern St. Kitts and Nevis. The question to be answered is, would this turn Nevis and St. Kitts into an El Dorado with our streets lined with gold and our bank accounts pregnant with cash? Or would it be in effect no different from the plundering, exploitative BS of old, stripping us of our dignity and our patrimony, and sending us as a country and as a people to an ignominious crash? Which one is it? To answer this question requires that the fundamentals of the project are shared with and understood by our people. And given the historic gravity of the matter, it is important that no binding decision is taken by our leaders unless the project has received broad national support. And in determining the question of broad national support, I think it would be important for the government and the NIA to commission a formal, transparent, independent poll. This is how important this matter is. We vote for opportunity, for stability, and for sustainability. We vote for a better St. Kitts and Nevis. We vote in the cause of our own individual and collective development. We vote to avoid embarrassment, loss, and disaster. And we, the voters, have not only to be vigilant, but we need to step in from time to time to ensure that we get what we voted for. We, the voters, must be our own champions.
Yes, we, the voters, must be our own champion. And when I hear that statement, I sort of ponder, why is it that for the most part, I don't know. It seems to me that Kittitians and Nevisians, for the most part, it takes so much to get them to take a situation really, really serious to the point where they will agitate on it. It seems as if, though, if we go back into history and use that as an example, that you have to push us to extreme limits. It is true that having pushed us to extreme limits, we can do things that will catapult the rest of the region to follow. But I tend to believe that we should not always wait until we are pushed to extremes, because there's the old saying, a stitch in time saves nine. So, and another one is an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. So the quicker we nip something, the more likely it is that we will save ourselves a lot of pain and frustration. Okay? So I'm going to look at one of the aspects he discussed there, and that is the promises of this project. Will it make us an El Dorado? And as we know, El Dorado is a more fabled a fantasy of a place where all is fine and it is this utopia. But as far as I'm aware, no one has yet found this El Dorado. So beware of when people come to you promising so much that it seems absolutely impossible. If it seems that way, then most likely it is that way. The other aspect of it is the acceptance of the electorate or the acceptance of the people. I cannot understand for the life of me why this bill was not discussed in detail before. It is too important. It is too far-reaching. The outcome could be too significant for it not to have been discussed before. Hello, caller.
Good morning to you, Quint.
Good day.
And greetings, and good morning to all your listeners too, and greetings in the name of Jesus Christ, the only Savior of sinners from their sins and from hell, through faith only, and the second person of the eternal Trinity. Now, yesterday, when we were talking about the wind energy, solar energy, that sort of stuff, and I put forth my case, but Dr. Brown said that, what I said might have been true 15 years ago, but it's not true today. Remember, the government says that by 2030, it wants to have our electricity supply to be fully on 100% on wind, solar, and geothermal. Now, geothermal to me just at the moment talks. You've been hearing about geothermal for years now. Now, I said wind and solar are very unreliable, expensive, and that sort of stuff. Not saying that some technology may not be developing and maybe price have dropped somewhat, excuse me, but compared to the hydrocarbons, whose technologies are also developing and prices are dropping as well, wind is much, and solar, they're much more expensive. And let me say, I was reading an article titled Green Obsession Feeds Orthodoxy and Starves Growth, written by Vijay Jayaraj. I think he's an Indian guy. And he tell you in the article, right now Spain and the Dutch people, they are experiencing problems. For example, because Spain is making moves to go more and more in these alternative energy, wind and solar. The prices, the bills have increased a lot, and they're suffering other problems. The unreliability, and the bills increase due to the expensiveness. The Dutch, they are being told that, hey, at peak times, cut back on your electrical use, cut back on your energy use. And the April blackouts were blamed on moving towards wind and solar. That sort of stuff. So right now, so my point is, even with countries, so you look at Spain and the Dutch, you see that the technology for these things have not developed to the point yet where they are reliable and where they will keep costs down compared to the hydrocarbon, coal, oil, and natural gas. It's still the case today. And at other times as well, I would bring more research. So Dr. Bond was not correct when he said what I said was true 15 years ago, but not today, because people are still countries are still developing these problems.
But Greg, why he said is that perhaps you envisioned us. Well, you said that there was a statement that we will move 100% into alternative energy.
That's what the government said by 2030.
Yeah, but you see, governments have a tendency to say things and say things because it sounds good to just say it, but upon analysis, it doesn't really pan out. But what he did say is that they do not foresee completely moving away from fossil fuel. What they would do is to supplement the use of fossil fuel by having these alternative in terms of geothermal and wind and solar energy. Of the three, wind is the thing that it all depends on the weather and that kind of stuff. And
right.
From my technical background, those turbines are very, very expensive. They're very expensive to buy.
They kill a lot of birds too.
And they're very. I'm not going to look at every negative aspect, because birds die in a whole lot of ways. But
but they increase the numbers a lot.
But yes, going back to what I was saying, in terms of those turbines for the wind, because I'm technical, I've delved into them, and from my understanding, they're very cumbersome, they're very expensive to get and to maintain. So I wouldn't go too much there for now. But in terms of...
Now cut you off, Quint. But in addition to that, do you know of the low... I think it's some kind of sound frequency that depends on what proximity you live in with them. They also cause problems with that too. Frequency going in, people here and said that has been very negative to the human body.
Well, I'm not too sure about that. I'm not too sure. Frequency from an electrical...
From the turbines.
From electrical hum, or... Well, I would assume...
No, I'm going to be quite honest with you. I'm not offered with all the technical things concerning that, but I know I have seen documentary where they let off some kind of frequency that don't affect people within the proximity.
I would assume perhaps that would be due to how the system is installed, and I would say, from my knowledge, that it might not have been installed properly, where you might have a low frequency hum and you don't have a pure sine wave. So I don't know, but like I said, I'm not too sure. But anyway, geothermal is another thing again, and we've got to be very careful how we use geothermal. It could be something down the line, but you've got to be very cautious with it, because you're tampering with the elements of nature, the elements that produce volcanic eruptions and that kind of stuff. It is from that. It is from that kind of heat that is still remaining in the earth that we get the geothermal energy. So we have got to be very cognizant of how we do it and who are going to do it and to what level we would do it. Again, governments tend to, especially in our regions, governments tend to pick up things that they hear and just run with it without really doing too much research and informing the people. But in terms of what he said about the costs going down considerably, you heard me chime in on that, because I have some friends who use solar energy, And I've heard them speak about the drastic decrease in the costs. And if this is speaking about individuals themselves feeling the effects of a drastic reduce, you could imagine if you're going to be a company that is going to do on a massive scale, you're going to get a further reduction because you're going to be getting on a massive scale a number of things and whatnot and so forth. But what my input to you is that my understanding from the doctor is that we do not foresee going completely away from fossil fuels.
That ain't really what he said, no, Quint. That ain't what he said, no. He said he would advise that they don't do that. He didn't say he didn't foresee. He said he would advise that they don't do that. That's what he said.
Well,
because the government said by 2030 it's going to be 100%.
If he's advising, and again, it is for the system to adhere to advice that they get. If you have someone and they're advising you along a certain way, don't you feel that you should adhere to the advice given?
Well, it all depends. I would do research. I will listen to more than one.
No, I'm not speaking about you. I'm speaking about if a system, if a government is in place and you look for the expert to give you advice, should you not take the advice of your experts? Because when you say, I'm going to do research, it's like a minister of agriculture or minister of foreign affairs, he has designated someone to do a job. How deep can his research be in relation to an expert? So what is he going to research? Even if he research, his knowledge is limited. So it is still better to take the advice of the people you employ.
No, when but when I said do research, not only that, but I would also read some things. I would listen to other side of the debate, see how fair he is with the different sides of the debate, pose questions to him, and not only that, but put him up against other experts so that we can have like maybe teleconference and that sort of stuff. And me now the minister, we try to pick sense out of nonsense. I wouldn't just go on one person, two person, three persons. I would want the opinions of where minds are clashing so I could pick out sense out of nonsense.
Greg, it is easy for you to say that, but when it is like, for instance, you employ a doctor in a hospital. The doctor is the chief medical officer. When operations and emergencies happens, if something happens, are you going to then say, well, I have a doctor, but I'm going to sit down in a teleconference with other doctors? Why did you choose those doctors to be in the place? Isn't it because you did research before, you had those teleconferences before, and you picked that doctor out of a number that you feel this doctor or these doctors are efficient? So why then, after the fact, having picked them, you're still going to go and you understand what I'm saying?
But the more input you get, the better it is. Yes, I may pick you, but I'm not going to rely totally on you. Picking you aid me not relying totally on you nowhere.
But you're speaking from your personal perspective, and I am saying that
right.
I am saying right. Yes, and I'm saying that is not the way you run a government.
Okay, number one, I don't even think government should be involved in these things in the first place, to be quite honest.
But let's not even go there because, that is not a part of the discussion.
That's what I'm telling you.
Okay.
Because if I was in charge, I would not even be involved in these things in the first place. All I'm saying that since these people are involved in these things, just like with the COVID thing, they only listened to one side, they didn't listen to other sides, and when people like me came and brought other sides, we were quickly cut off.
Well, anyway, let's not jump off on other tangents because
your mama point is, even though you have your experts, still be cognizant of the fact that hey, they can still be wrong, and the more input you get, the better it is.
But again, I say that is not the way you run a government. When you have a headmaster or teachers in a school, you expect them to do their job because you interviewed them, you had people vet them, and you put them in that job, and you are supposed to be able to execute other functions and let them execute their functions. That is the way a system runs. That is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Quint. I understand what you're saying. But a system, but you should realize, number one, like I said, I don't even believe that this is the way government should run. That's what I'm saying. So to say to me, hey, this isn't the way government run. How government running in the first place is wrong. All this is wrong.
But
I'm saying in its wrongness, at least, hey, the buck stop with you, the minister, the buck stop with you. In the anything, the doctor's going to get blamed, you're going to get blamed when anything goes wrong. So it is incumbent on you to also make yourself be aware and cognizant of as much information as possible on all sides of the debate. That's what I'm saying. Because the buck going to stop at you, the blame going to stop at you, and ultimately at the feet of the Prime Minister. Ultimately.
Yes, I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah.
But that is what you would call micromanaging, and people who are qualified do not like to be micromanaged.
I understand.
Continue it. Go to another point, please. Go ahead.
Yes. Quickly, let me also say that there's a saying. Because it's partly going to touch on what Doyle was saying. I'm going to want to be quick. You cannot vote yourself out of what you sinned yourself into. Okay? Only biblical repentance could take you out of that, not voting. You cannot vote yourself out of what you sinned yourself into. Only biblical repentance can do that. And I'm saying, concerning the land issues and all these other evils that are plaguing us, I'm saying, one of the things that the Bible says, you obey me, Deuteronomy chapters 28, 29, and 30 as well, you obey me, I will make you to be the head and the foreigners to be the tail. But when you disobey me, I will make the foreigners to be the head and you, the locals, the citizens, to be the tail. That is also what I want to say, and this is what we are playing out, as the Bible says, so done, and so being done. Thank you very much, Quinn. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Let me take a bit of a commercial break, and I'll be right back.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
The right time, right ride, right now at Horsefoot's Automotive. Buy now or reserve for VAT discount days, Friday, December 12th and Saturday, December 20th, and get our lowest rates ever. Plus, enjoy up to $17,000 on select models. No VAT and no down payment. Drive away with finance with Horsefoot's and get free bill of sale, free servicing for 12 months, free registration, free tinting, and even free groceries or gas for 3 months. Because the right time is here for the right vehicle with the right deal right now. Visit Horsefoot's Automotive right now. Drive smart. Drive Horsefoot's. Terms and conditions apply.
The holidays just got a whole lot brighter with the new $5 Holiday Stash scratch ticket. It's easy to play, packed with $1,000 prizes and many chances for you to win big this holiday season. So go ahead, treat yourself, spread some cheer, and stack some cash. Play Holiday Stash today at Caribbean Lottery agents and vending machines island-wide. Must be 21 years and older to play. Please play responsibly.
Campari, Red Passion. Embrace the mix.
Campari, Red Passion, full action, this is Red Passion. Embrace the mix, add Campari, make it turn and twist. Add your chaser in your drink. Campari, Red Passion, make the nicest mix. Campari!
Campari, Red Passion. Embrace the mix. Must be 18 years or older to drink. Drink responsibly.
And we're back, and let me see if I can head to the phone lines. Hello, caller. Good day.
Hi, good morning, Quinn.
Good day, Africa, and how are you today?
I'm good, and yourself?
I'm fine. I'm okay.
Yes. Good morning to all the listeners. Good morning to Mrs. Henry, my community elder. Someone that I respect and love dearly. This morning I want to touch on a matter. It is a policy of the United States. Whether it is the Monroe Doctrine they will apply, or any other doctrine in their apparatus.
Africa, before you go further, let me ask you a question because you're a taxi person and I would assume you lime in that vicinity. Do you understand why they completely trim that tree down there in the circus? Why they did that completely?
Well, to answer your question and to start, it's not a trim. We know how people trim and grow
Well,
trees.
I was trying to be nice, okay?
That's a desecration. Not only a desecration of a space in the town where people should.
And isn't
but
that
considering the flamboyant tree is the national space?
That's what I was thinking. It's our national tree. Yeah.
Yes, a national tree. That is a desecration. Trees was cut before or trimmed, and considering there was a lamp, there's a lamp pole there, right?
Yes.
But it could have been done within a tasteful manner. I have seen taxi elders, taximen who would have given their seat to the elderly as they make their rounds in the town.
Yes.
Their errands and wanted to have a seat in the blazing sun of our harsh sun. We respect it, but you know what I mean? They say fire is a good master but a bad servant at times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's, the elements can be harsh at times, and we will want to share, take a little fire here and there. And for the life of me, I cannot understand it because there are no overhead wires. Mm-hmm. There are some overhead wires with ornamental bulbs around and that are attached to the palm trees.
But even so, Africa, they could have pruned it below. They could have pruned it so that it stays a considerable distance below those wires. Why do what they did just to a national plant in the middle of town?
Where we need more trees in the town. There are some nice royal palm trees, 1, 2, probably 3 slots are vacant, and we would hope that they will source others to put them back. And so when you look back at those old pictures way back, you see those palm trees that ring the circus.
Yeah.
Yes, but the flamboyant tree provide a shade. It absorbs what cheese does.
Yeah.
A tree is alive,
Yes, it is.
And the tree is not going to cry tears like how we cry tears and cry out the way we cry out, but they cry in their own form.
Yeah.
So to animals. And so we, because of the lack of respect for things beyond humanity, the human entity, and that is limited to our
Africa,
whole circumference.
Africa, picture this. Picture this. This is why I can't understand it for the life of me. Picture this. A taxi operator is coming through with one of those vehicles where you have a number of individuals and they're going through, and he's speaking to them about the various historic things and so forth. Let's assume that one of the visitors asks, isn't that a flamboyant tree? And he says, yes. And they say, but isn't that your national tree? And he says, yes. And they say, but why is it cut like that? What can he say? What does that say about our own respect for our own national emblems?
Yes, because there ain't no set policy, and there needs to be a set policy when it comes to life and our sanctity and what we hold sacred. That is why I said that was a desecration. Now, I can agree that there are other trees, flamboyant or otherwise, that would, because you cannot have a plant running through electrical wires. That is a recipe for electrocution.
Yes.
You know what I mean? We know that. So, in their initiative to prune the trees, and also, Quint, we're not even in the start of the hurricane season where we say, because of the fear of the high winds and so forth, why we'll cut that tree like the way it was cut. the way it was desecrated. But along our main road and along our villages, there would be some overhead trees, overgrown trees that would need remedied, taken care of, in a nice way, in a way that doesn't hurt the lack of trees on the island as it is. You know, once the next administration assume office, I am going to go to who is the prime minister, he or she, and said to them, I am proposing, I am presenting a tree planting initiative. I'm going to put it on the table. I have already identified where I'm going to plant fruit trees and where I'm going to plant ornamental trees.
Yeah. Okay, Africa, I want you to go back to where you were now when you started about the American policies. So I just took you off on a tangent.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Now, the U.S., the Trump administration had made a statement, a warmongering statement towards Nigeria. On the surface, it seems as if, well, all right, Trump is empathetic, sympathetic towards the Christians, and the religious conflict. It's deep. It runs deep within certain communities like Nigeria. And so Donald Trump has made an egregious statement where China has weighed in and the African Union has weighed in. And in my paraphrasing, telling Trump, cease and desist from going down that religious line. There is enough challenging when it comes to that already, and cease and desist. Because all those religious, organized religions, they are guilty, you know.
Yes.
Islam and Christianity.
Every one of them.
Because there are other minority groups today that has been ostracized, been set aside, almost, they call them animists and all sorts of people.
Yeah.
They have a religious way of life, but these other groups, organized groups, came in and, like, pushed them aside.
Yes.
So now the conflict is, like, amongst the elephants, so to speak, you know. And so Trump made this statement as if he just wanted to go in Nigeria and take out the government because of the, you know, the conflict, the sectarian conflict with Islam and Christianity.
But Africa, that is no different to what we see playing out here in the Caribbean, you know. What the United States is trying to do is to spread its tentacles different places at the same time so that the end result could be that it reinforces its power status in different places around the world. It's about wealth. We know the kind of wealth that is in that proximity. We know the kind of wealth that is in our proximity. This isn't just about Christians, as you so rightfully stated. So we know there is an agenda that is no different from what we see playing out in the proximity of Venezuela.
Exactly, because the potential, those who would sign up with the BRICS nation and those who potentially showing interest to sign up on the BRICS nation and the lopsidedness of it right now. I think the BRICS, in terms of their spend, in terms of the economy, I think there is probably at 45% of the world economy.
They way outnumber.
And growing, growing.
Yes. Yeah.
And in terms of their population, come on, India and China alone, you know, they probably have 50-something% of the world population with Indonesia. So all of these things are factors that would be weighed into the whole scheme of things. And why? Because these nations has found a way to go around to avoid trading in the dollar. Because having to trade in the dollar, you have to meet these austerity measures that the Trump administration continue to do.
Yes.
And they're realizing that people is pushing back. So Nigeria, with all the lithium and the iridium and all of, apart from the oil, see fit to trade otherwise, maybe in the yuan or another currency.
And here's something that really surprised me. Even nations in Europe are considering joining the BRICS.
Yeah, picture that.
Imagine that.
Picture that.
So people imagine you're leaving the EU to join something that right now the EU is in a quandary because they're threatening their own members now and saying, well, if you do this, it could fragment. If you do this, you're going to have just the same threats that they used to give us when we try to go our own way and seek our independence. They're forced now to do that amongst themselves.
Yeah, so I just wanted to weigh in on that because I have heard of it, and it's not that I was ignoring that aspect of it because we don't want to see this conflict. Just like the zone of peace that we are in the Caribbean, we don't want to see sectarian conflicts where other larger players will say, this is the moment I was waiting on to have my say or to have a justification as to why. So in terms of the Trump administration justification as to why that, we should not feed into it on the Christian side or on the Muslim side. Yeah. We should just see it for what it is to say, well, he's gonna add flames to the fire. You know, he's gonna pour oil on the fire because that wouldn't resolve it because these things have been going on ever since the letter with King Leopold. And I must put these things in because prior to that and the letter about the space, another letter that Johnny read out about, people, how they used to live. There was no thievery. People just used to leave their homes open without anyone because you never see a thief, you never see a beggar, you never see a prison because we know not to steal, we know not to, plunder our neighbors' property and the like. So all of this is that when these organized religions came in and everybody vying for, the larger share and the spread population and the wealth, all of it come with all of what these conflicts, religious or otherwise, are.
And that proves
sectarian or ethnic.
Yeah, and that proves where they changed the religion, morphed it in a way to suit their agenda. And so when people today just follow the religion blindly and try to discredit what the religion has done to us as a people, I just can't understand it because it is there in history. That Leopold letter and what he, not only his letter, but history showed what he did. Around that period when you saw...
the people from, as if the people did not know, gold and iron smelting and all of that. They have thousands, 10,000 at minimum, least amounts. The anthropologists and those archaeologists and people who would have studied the earth and geologists.
But that isn't what I'm...
iron smelting and gold mining. Remember, Mansa Musa traveled in the 1300s to Mecca with, and crash the economies of like Egypt and so.
But that isn't what... But Africa, that isn't what I was referring to. I was referring to after they went into those areas. If you look at the population of people after that, you realize how everyone was disfigured? Everyone?
Yes, and so...
That is what I'm speaking about. Everyone, if you look back at the history of that era, you see everyone in those pictures that you see, almost every family, everyone was missing a limb, either missing a hand, missing right up to the elbow, and all of that. Maliciously and viciously done just so that they could force the people to get gold and other important minerals. And if
industrial revolution, as they call it, came upon, man and modern technology and the industrial revolution for rubber and so forth. And that is how it was done. The extraction of rubber from the trees. Actually, the rubber was scraped from the skin of the individual who climbed the trees and actually tried to get their quota because they had quota that they had to meet to please these people.
Yeah, and it is because the quota was never accepted. Even when a quota was set, it was never accepted why they lost their limbs, right?
No, it was. Yeah, so that is how all of these things came about.
It was because it was because they would set quotas, and it's just like what Columbus did when he came down here. Columbus told the Indians if you didn't get gold within a certain period, you would lose limbs, and that is what they did. And that is what Leopold and all of them, I mean, history's there to prove it.
Yeah, so that's basically it. I love someone else to get in. And I just wanted to touch this morning because Mrs. Henry know that I am versed in my contributions, but I started on this note after the program that I sat in on.
Yes.
Just to let her know that the Christian sisters and brothers, they are our people too. They have chosen to be Christians and Muslims, so be it, but I am who I am. We are the roots, some are the leaves, some are the branches.
But the other fact though, Africa, is that they say Christians are being killed, but not only Christians are dying there, but they conveniently leave out the fact that the other factions are dying.
And that is what we should reject.
That is what I'm saying.
The modus operandi of accepting one instead of religious tolerance amongst our people. The modus operandi of accepting Christianity and the way Greg speaks. There's no other God. Greg, I have done my research. I have the book here for you, Greg. I'm going to let you know the book. Give you the book. But when you come to the fore with this book, I have read the book thoroughly, Greg. And we're going to have a conversation surrounding this book and the content of the Talmud and the Mishnah and all of those other religious Jewish literature, along with the gods after the Tower of Babel. We will have a conversation about that. So
okay.
Here is it. They're trying to prove one God, because their God is the only God and the rightful God and all things. Any other entity below what they counsels, so like, let us make man in our image, and the man has become like one of us. It comes down to be like how Christianity say, oh, it's Jesus, the Father, and the Holy Ghost. The Jews wouldn't even agree with that, and it was their literature. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, these things came late on the dogmas, where the seven councils of the Nicene Council and the Chalcedon Council and the Ephesus Council and all of those councils made Mary the godmother, the mother of God, made Jesus God the Son, and so forth and so forth and so forth.
I'm due a commercial break, yes. I'm due a commercial break, so I'm going to take that, and when we come back, I get into the second clip. Like I said, I have 3 clips from Mr. Dwyer Estefan, so I'm going to play the second clip after this bit of a break.
You found the sound 98.9 WinnFm.
The right time, right ride, right now at Horsefoot's Automotive. Buy now or reserve for VAT discount days, Friday, December 12th and Saturday, December 20th, and get our lowest rates ever. Plus, enjoy up to $17,000 on select models. No VAT and no down payment. Drive away with finance with Horsefoots and get free bill of sale, free servicing for 12 months, free registration, free tinting, and even free groceries or gas for 3 months. Because the right time is here for the right vehicle with the right deal right now. Visit Horsefoots Automotive right now. Drive smart. Drive Horsefoots. Terms and conditions apply.
Here comes the Mega Ball. You can win more with the Mega Ball. Pick 3 and pick 4 and you could get all.
Yes, playing Pick 3 and Pick 4 with the Caribbean Lottery just got more rewarding. Now you can win more with the Mega Ball. For just an extra $1, increase your winnings by $1,000 with the Pick 3 and a big $10,000 with the Pick 4. Don't wait, play today. Play Pick 3 and Pick 4 with the Mega Ball at Caribbean Lottery agents island-wide.
You ready to win a little extra? Then get on the ball.
Must be 21 and over to play.
If you need protection, you need one who you can trust. To secure your investment, you need one who'll do you just. TDC Insurance, you're the one that you can trust. TDC Insurance, you're always safe with us. TDC Insurance is your go-to insurance company for all your insurance needs. We take pride in offering you the best solutions and ensuring our customers are fully satisfied. TDC Insurance, we take good care of you, guaranteeing you peace of mind. You're always safe with us.
And I'm back with you. The time approximately 8:46. And let me get right into my second clip, as narrated by Mr. Dwyer Astafan. And this one is entitled A Question of in the Case of Default of Liability. Let me go to the phone lines here. Hello, caller.
Grand rising to you, Quint, and grand rising to the listening public. Now, just on the backdrop of what Africa said, right, about the letter from King Leopold and all the atrocities that were committed to our people. These are the same people that give us the translation in what they claim to be the holy word of God, Quint. Let us look at the writers, Quint, the whole of Europe. Britain, France, Germany, Belgium. That's why King Leopold was able to tell the missionaries, do not tell the Africans nothing about God. You guys was just talking about the limbs that were severed from our people in the DRC back then. No.
But this is why Africa, when certain individuals come and tell us that when Christianity came and it was nice and it was preaching unity and love and blah, blah, blah. And I keep telling them, no, history doesn't bear that out. Wherever Christianity went, it carried destruction and mayhem.
But Quint, I mentioned before the Bible, before the King James Bible, there was unity. Before Christianity, there was spirituality. Our ancestors were in alignment with nature. Earth, air, water, fire, spirit. This is our people. And when they came and they saw our people under every green tree, they thought we were worshiping the trees. Our ancestors communed with nature. Nature is our greatest teacher, Quint. Now, let me say something that was said on Wednesday. I worked yesterday morning, so I couldn't come in. Your first caller, Gregory, he mentioned on Wednesday of the Greek language was a universal language, as English is today the universal language. So what is universal about these languages, Quint? What is universal about their language that were imposed? To tell me that Greek and English today is universal language, when I know my ancestors started civilization within the African continent, to tell me this universal language is like telling me, well, didn't my ancestors have a way of communicating within their space?
And not only that,
Don't we have our blueprint?
Not only that, Journey, those very same references that you use and say those are the established universal language, whom did they learn from?
Exactly my point. And you and I know, Quint, that what they did to give us fear, this is why I have to stress on fear. Fear God. Why they didn't say the love of God is the beginning of wisdom, but they tell us fear, false evidence appearing real. No, follow me, Quint. They tell us in their book, in their literature, God is a spirit, and if you worship, you must worship in spirit and in truth. Now, if God is a spirit, of all the atrocities that were committed to our ancestors, did God did it, or was it man? Was it not man who committed these atrocities? Are you following my line of my train of thought, Quint? God being a spirit, who has seen a spirit? Who has seen a spirit kill? But then when you look at you, and I know that you, Quint, and myself are a God in the totality of spirit coming into flesh, because we were spiritual beings before we came flesh. But we've forgotten. Africa's topic on Wednesday was about remembrance. Remember who your ancestors were and the greatness of our ancestors then. Now, we were interrupted, Quint, and we were disrupted through colonialism and slavery. That is what broke us. We went astray. And that is why today, Quint, you and I, we recognize our ancient ancestors, but yet we cannot aspire to do what they did because we were interrupted. And this interruption is not just by Christianity religion. It is also by our eating habits, Quint. Whether we were speaking about technology and green emission and all that, but look at almost every house within the black space today have a microwave, a refrigerator, and even air condition. Now you think a microwave does not, when you put your food in a microwave, it doesn't send out radiation that affects the food, that is slowly poisoning you? Here we are talking about technology and artificial intelligence. This is why Journey says, I don't see artificial intelligence, Quint. I see ancestral intelligence because my body is a library of knowledge that is in my DNA of my ancestors. And this is why Journey is tapping in within me. I am the book, Quint. I don't need a book because there's nothing holy about this book. Let me repeat this, Quint. Nothing is holy about this book. The book is the literature of the writers to justify their wickedness that they have done to our people, Quint. You are a god, and whenever a woman sees herself as a goddess, she arises. We descend to ascend, Quint. That's why when I ask you, Quint, if you ever ask yourself why you cannot remember the day you were born, had you remember, there wouldn't have been any room for growth. We descend to ascend. It wasn't one deity that descended upon the face of the deep. We are spirit before we came flesh, Quint. I know this, our people cannot wrap their head around it, Quint, but in due time, and I'm not trying to persuade anyone because I was in the space that my people are in right now. I'm talking to those in the back of the room, Quint. Because our unity...
What I want you to do, though, Journey, which I keep telling you all the time. I know recently you came on and you said, I tend to say that you're redundant. What I want you to do, you see like how the other day you brought up a story that fit into your narrative and the way Africa will bring in the Leopold. This is what I want you to do. When you're bringing the narrative, bring historical aspect that buttress and strengthens what you're saying. That way, even though you may repeat the salient point about remembering and us being gods, you have a story along with it that keeps people attuned. Because if you keep saying the same thing over and over, it becomes a bit boring. So I'm not knocking you. I'm saying do what you did recently when you brought a story into it because you're well read. So bring your story, bring something that strengthens the narrative that you want to reinforce. You can always repeat the narrative, but bring different stories to strengthen the narrative. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, Quint, I got you.
Yes.
But you see, the emphasis is, I emphasize on my point simply because I know that our people would put their neck on a block to those who are complicit, they're complete within this narrative of the Jesus that died for the sins of the world. We have to understand that the writers, this is what I'm saying, let us analyze the writers who claim, and Quint, today we see how they use words and figures. Words and figures that they use on us. Wholly inspired men. But when you look at I think you raised a point to Gregory a couple of days ago when you asked him if he recognized that the Bible has no author. Now, what his name? Shakespeare signed his name in Psalms 32. We know who Shakespeare was. We know who King James was. But yet we don't bother to look into these characters and see how bloody their hands were.
But we were not supposed to look into those characters. We were supposed
Yes.
to accept the book in blind faith. That is what we're
Exactly.
supposed to do.
But you know, Quint, we have to keep at what we are doing, especially in time like now. Africa mentioned what Donald Trump is doing because some black preacher reached out to him from Nigeria saying that, Christians are being slaughtered. Christians are being unalive. Is it just Christians alone? Now, little do women know, or most of us, that let us look at Boko Haram in Nigeria. Who created Boko Haram? So they create the scenario as a scapegoat for them to come in to exploit. And our politicians are silent. Look at what is going on in Sudan, the DRC. And our people are comfortable being in Babylon, Quint. Even though they condemn what they're doing, they're comfortable there. And finding off the inheritance, just as the story between the two brothers, Jacob and Esau. We gave up our birthright, we gave up our inheritance.
Yeah,
while they are exploiting it.
Journey, I want you to wrap up because I want to
Yes,
take a commercial
I'll pause
break.
here, Quint.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
So let me take a bit of a commercial break, and hopefully when I come back, I can play that second clip from Dwyer Astor.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is WinnFM.
If you need protection, you need one who you can trust to secure your investment. You need one who'll do you just. TDC Insurance, you're the one that you can trust. TDC Insurance, you're always safe with us.
TDC Insurance is your go-to insurance company for all your insurance needs. We take pride in offering you the best solutions and ensuring our customers are fully satisfied. TDC Insurance, we take good care of you, guaranteeing you peace of mind.
You're always safe with us.
Campari. Red Passion. Embrace the mix.
Campari red passion, full action, this is red passion. Embrace the mix, add Campari, make it turn and twist. Add your chaser in your drink. Campari red passion, make the nicest mix. Campari!
Campari Red Passion. Embrace the mix. Must be 18 years or older to drink. Drink responsibly.
'Tis the season for dreams to come true. There's Santa for the kids and CIBC Caribbean for you. Whether it's a house, land, vehicle, or upgrading your home, CIBC Caribbean can support your dreams with the financing you need. Enjoy incredible cashback deals with mortgages and land loans. Plus, your approved loan gives you a chance to win up to US $5,000. Apply now at www.cibccaribbean.com/sweeten the season. Terms and conditions apply.
And welcome back. And I'm going to, let me see if I can restart that bit of a team there so that I can do some adjustments in Studio 2. And welcome back. The time is 3 minutes moving away from the 9 o'clock hour, and I have someone who's sitting in Studio 2 and will be chiming in occasionally with our chit-chat. I don't know how comfortable he might be because, you know, my topics and my issues are not... I don't sit here and play softball, you understand? So I don't know. We'll feel him out and see what he's all about. But as I promised, after this bit of a break, I wanted to play the second clip from Dwyer Astafan as it relates to the SSZ. And this one is entitled The Question of Default in Liability or Default in Meeting the Demands or the Expectations of what has been agreed upon in relation to the SSZ. So I'm going to play that clip for you right about now.
Who are these destiny people? There are people who believe in less government and more individuality, less laws and regulations and more voluntary interactions among individuals, of course. They are known as libertarians, and they have an organization which is called the Free Society Foundation. Their leader is Olivier Janssens. He's a cryptocurrency man. And there are a number of other major crypto figures involved in it, not the least of whom is Roger Ver, a crypto billionaire who holds a St. Kitts Nevis passport. His nickname is Bitcoin Jesus. So you can presume there'll be a lot of crypto in the Destiny Project. I'm told that Mr. Janssens is also a holder of a St. Kitts Nevis passport. This group has been on the hunt for years to find locations where they can set up libertarian countries, or if you prefer not to hear the word countries, libertarian autonomous zones of their own. It should come as no surprise to you, therefore, if you were told that they target vulnerable and sometimes desperate countries in their quest to set up their autonomous libertarian zones. These are the folks who want to buy 3 square miles of Nevis to set up their zone. Between last week's commentary and today, a lot has happened. I can only give you a bit of it because of time. In a stakeholder meeting, the Nevis Island administration leaders were asked about compensation in terms of default by a party to the agreement, whether the developers or the NIA or the federal government. And I'm told that the Nevis Island administration responded that if it is Destiny's fault, the developer's fault, their maximum liability would be $75 million US. However, if it is the fault of the NIA or the federal government, the liability can reach 2.5 times the value of the Destiny investment. Who would do the valuation of that investment? Where the heck would Nevis or the federal government or both get the money, which could go into the billions, to settle that debt? And even if these two governments, the federal government in St. Kitts and the Nevis Island administration in Charlestown, even if they had that kind of money, that's not the way we should spend our people's money. So if there's no money, the libertarians might call for what? More land. And who would arbitrate the matter if arbitration were necessary? Indeed, if there was a difference of opinion between the NIA and the federal government in terms of that matter or any other. How would that be settled? This is a serious matter, you know. This unfair arrangement with regard specifically, not mentioning anything else, to compensation makes me wonder if the libertarians are more predators than investors, preying upon unsuspecting leaders and citizens of a small, vulnerable country that is hungry for development.
Yeah, so there's a second question as it relates to default of liability, which I spoke to on a number of occasions, and we were speaking about the disparity between 75 million and if they defaulted, and the going into billions if we defaulted. And is this a fact, or is it fiction? We have yet to hear from the very same individuals who went and passed this bill and made it a law. We have yet to hear from them definitively whether this is fact or fiction. We're getting vague expressions and so on and so forth. But having said that, because like I said, I have a guest with me, an individual with me, I'm going to let him introduce himself. I don't know how au fait he is with what we're speaking. I'm not going to pull him into that. I'm going to give him the option whether he wants to leave that alone, because I would not try to coerce him. But good day to you, sir. Could you tell the people who you are?
Good morning. Good morning, people. Good morning, WinnFm. My name is John Francis, a national.
Yeah, a national.
Born of the soil. Actually hailing from Sadlers.
From Sadlers.
Yeah,
Where do you presently reside?
I'm currently living in Connery.
Okay, because I know that's where I last knew you to be. And I remember how we first made acquaintance. I think you would have to correct me if my memory doesn't serve me right. I first remembered you when I was managing Radio 1, and you had a business in the proximity, and I would venture into your place for music, and we developed a rapport, and I realized you had a love for music like myself, and so forth. So am I wrong? Is my memory serving me right?
Yep, that was when I first returned back to St. Kitts.
Okay.
From a life in Europe. I think in those days I'd set up a small boutique on Baker's Corner.
Yes.
Selling CDs and music and entertainment paraphernalia.
Yeah.
And and I was there with my first attempt to reestablish myself in the music and the entertainment industry in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yes. And I do know that you have a very long history as it relates to music and some renowned artists and so forth. I'm aware of that. So I'm going to give you the leeway and scope as to interjecting anything specific that you want to speak about. Is there anything? Carnival is in the air. Is that something you want to speak about? The atmosphere in the Federation of St. Kitts as we approach the festive and Yuletide season. I'm going to leave it up to you.
Yeah. When the station manager approached me to have this discourse on the radio, it was after I'd been here a couple of times to talk on particular subjects, things I like to discuss.
Yes.
And things that I like to share is issues containing to the environment. I like environmental issues.
Yeah.
Whether it's the beaches, whether it's the rainforest, climate change, development, anything to do with the environment. Yeah. I'm a dog lover, cat lover too. I like to talk about culture, of course, St. Kitts culture as it pertains to our movement of our peoples from the African continent. I'm mixing with the European coalition of cultures and people in the Caribbean. from Europe and from Far East and indigenous people and Africa, of course, and given us a very beautiful mixture here in the Caribbean, which is worth noteworthy to discuss, I think, on many different levels.
Yeah.
I like to talk about music. It is my profession for well over all my life.
Having said that, do you play instruments?
I used to be a drummer back in the day.
Okay.
When I was a teenager, I played drums.
Okay.
And then I got involved in music through that way. And then, got a taste for it. And after that, music is like that. It gets into your DNA. Well, it finds its place in your DNA.
Yeah.
That exists all the time,
Well.
So I made that a career. And I also love history. I follow the history of industrial history I like, economic history I like. So economic history then leads to thinking about the role of Africa in the economic development of Europe, the rest of the world, and its impact in the Caribbean. Of course, the Caribbean was very, very much a part of that whole
Speaking of that is a tangent I would like to perhaps delve into, because that is I'm a history buff. I'm into history, and right now we see a sort of evolution happening in Africa, and we see what's happening in the Sahel states. We see some friction between the Sahel states and the African Union, but we hope that there will be a sort of a combining and merging eventually. But let me ask you this: how do you see what is unfolding in Africa and how it will affect the West?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see this affecting the West in a positive or negative vein? And do you feel the West is going to allow this? They're going to acquiesce and allow it to happen, take its natural course, or do you perceive that there might be some friction?
Okay, good question. It's all my personal opinion.
Yes.
I too am a follower of, as I said, I was a scholar of economic history, and of course, economic history goes back from the 1700s, and of course that is when Europe.
There are people who believe.
Sorry, go ahead. My mistakes there.
Yeah.
You said when Europe.
When Europe got on the move in the end of the 1300s, 1400s, and Portugal was they had to go into a discovery mode.
Yes.
The geographical location of Portugal is they're just right there on the edge of the Atlantic, and a little step around following the currents and the coastline. They're in Africa, and then they just followed the coastline all the way around. They had to, because they were under pressure from the Spanish on the other side. And of course, in doing that, they were very surprised what they saw, because the information that was coming back to them about Africa was not really what they expected. So that, of course, the whole movement of
and what was the Africa? What was the information that was coming back to them?
Very little. Of course, information is king, as we all now know. I mean, for example,
you said they were surprised because the information. I want you to elaborate on why were they surprised because of the information they got in terms of what they were now seeing.
Well, I think the African continent was at the end of its period, so to speak, similar to what's going on right now. Africa, we're coming to the end of what 400 years have provided. Africa was the same thing. They were going towards the end of their dominance of their world.
Yeah.
And of course, that information would have been there. Of course, people were going to Africa for a long time. I mean, if you look at the old coat of arms of the families of the UK and Europe, they have lions on them. They have coat of arms have crocodiles and things like that on their coat of arms. So they must have known about Africa for a long time. But of course, information is king. You keep the information to yourself. So only a few people is privy to what what was actually going on. So going back, I think Africa itself, it was coming towards the end, whether it's the Mali Empire, the Empire in Nigeria or in Ghana. They were going towards the end, and of course deals were done with the Portuguese because they couldn't go inland. They had no interest to go inland. Their interest was to go along the coast, and they did it all the way around to China. So so Africa itself was in a trading mood. People arriving, of course. I don't think the African people were surprised to see the white people. I think the story or the books or the Disney fantasy, we see Columbus standing on the tribal Indians standing on the coastline, and Columbus is coming across with ships, and the natives are all in awe. Who are these people? I don't think that was particularly true. I think they were used to people coming over for a long time. They've heard news. They knew that there were people out there. So, of course, when the Europeans arrived in Africa, they were looking just for resources. And that has always been the case. Human beings are always looking for resources, whether it's oil today, whether it's, geothermal to make electricity, whether it's whatever. We're looking for resources to create our wealth. And Africa, as we all know, is 60% of the whole world resources in Africa. There's no surprise because it's such a huge place. So of course, Europe in that period had just been going through a lot of Black Death, a lot of what do you call it, pandemics in Europe, all kinds of nonsense was going on in Europe. They've had 400 years of problems, which they call the Dark Ages in Europe. So of course Europe had to go out, and they went to Africa. It was near. There was a lot there to see, a lot there to have, and they interacted with the people. So I think for 400 years, it's been the battle to get African resource, whether it's minerals or people. And we are part of that. The Caribbean it's a resource full or a resource situation that's put us here. We didn't come here because of our religious, religious integrity. We didn't get here because, the love of nature and exploration. We were here because we were a resource for other people who had more power than us. So I think, and so what's going on in Africa, I believe, these days, is that Africa have understood, or not understood, they can control their resources, which they've never been able to do before. So once they control their resource, then of course the interaction, the communication they will have with people who want to get their hand on that resource will change. Yeah. And that's what we're going through now. Well, you can call it Sahel states, you can call it, what else? Where are they? They're, other countries, what's happening in Syria, in Sudan. Yeah. That's a resource, but in Sudan, it's location. Yeah, Ghana. Ghana, that's more resources. Yeah. So African people are now controlling that, and they have friends who is helping them to control that resource. And then that is what's going on. I believe that's going on right now.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to take a commercial break. I like the way you sort of gave us a history of them coming and what they're seeing and bring it to now. But I think you're being rather diplomatic. You're trying to be very soft. I don't have a problem with it, but when we come back after the break, I want you to answer the part of it in relation to now that you have agreed that Africans are now taking control of their resources and they are aware of their potential. The question I asked was, how do you think Europe is going to take it, and will they allow it to happen, or do you believe there will be some friction? But we'll do that after this bit of a break. We'll come back and I'll see if I can delve into your thoughts a little bit further.
If you need protection, you need one who you can trust to see
TDC Insurance is your go-to insurance company for all your insurance needs. We take pride in offering you the best solutions and ensuring our customers are fully satisfied. TDC Insurance, we take good care of you, guaranteeing you peace of mind. You're always safe with us.
Campari. Red Passion. Embrace the mix.
Campari Red Passion, full action, this is Red Passion. Embrace the mix, add Campari, make it turn and twist. Add your chaser in your drink. Campari Red Passion, make the nicest mix. Campari!
Campari Red Passion. Embrace the mix. Must be 18 years or older to drink. Drink responsibly.
'Tis the season for dreams to come true. There's Santa for the kids and CIBC Caribbean for you. Whether it's a house, land, vehicle, or upgrading your home, CIBC Caribbean can support your dreams with the financing you need. Enjoy incredible cashback deals with mortgages and land loans. Plus, your approved loan gives you a chance to win up to US $5,000. Apply now at www.cibccaribbean.com/sweeten the season. Terms and conditions apply.
And we are back. The time 9:23, and again we have guests here. I could say my co-host for this period. And just before that bit of a break, I said I would try to delve into his thought process and ask him to elucidate on how he thinks the European or the West will accept or reject this that is unfolding in around the world, really. But before I do that, I seem to have a call, so I'm going to go there. Hello, caller.
Quint?
Yes.
It's me again. And greetings to your guests in Jesus' name as well. Now, Quint, it's something quickly I would like to say. King Leopold II of Belgium, okay? He never told the missionaries not to teach Africans about God. He never told, well, we have no evidence of him telling them that. What happened is that there's an 1833 alleged letter that most scholars now believe that it is likely a fabrication. So there's no hard evidence that he tell them to don't teach the Africans about God. No, many of the contents in the letter do reflect the regime policies, negative policies, bad, evil, wicked policies towards the Africans in the Congo. But that thing about not telling them, instructing missionaries not to tell Africans about God, we have no real hard evidence of that. And let me say, King Leopold was not a Christian. Maybe he have claimed to be, because all kind of people have claimed to be in Europe and other places. But where the Bible is concerned, he fell very short of the Bible standard for being called a Christian. And let me also say this. As well. We have no evidence whatsoever that Shakespeare had anything whatsoever to do with the translation or the making of the King James Version. We have no evidence of that whatsoever. Excuse me.
Well, I myself have never walked down that line. I've heard it, but I've never delved into whether that is fact or fiction, because for me it is neither here or there. Go ahead.
Right, but there's no evidence of that whatsoever. Maybe he had a personal Bible. We all have personal Bible, and maybe he might have put his personal name in his personal Bible. Maybe, but as far as we're the translating, making of the King James Version, we have not the slightest shred of evidence of that. And lastly, I would like to say as well, there were people who were truly of God who went into Africa, and among Africans that they came across who were not evangelized by Africans, because there were Christian Africans in some parts of Africa before these missionaries went in there. But obviously they didn't went to all Africans. But missionaries such as David Livingstone, Robert Moffat, Mary Slessor, and those other people, they were true missionaries of God. And when they went into Africa, they did a lot of good. With the greatest good that they did is to tell the Africans about the gospel that saved many Africans from their sin and from hell. That was the greatest good they did, but they did also other good as well. Because, for example, Mary Slessor in Nigeria, the Nigerians had a practice where if you were both twins, they would put them out in what they call the evil forest to die, so they would abandon them there. Mary Slessor brought an end to it. And there are other things that I could tell you missionaries brought an end to as well. So there were those who were really of God, and they really did a lot of good. With the greatest good, like I said, is telling the people the gospel message, how to be saved from their sins and how to be saved from hell. Not that they were the first time they Africans come across the Bible or the gospel, but because there were Africans who were already Christians long before these Europeans ever came in. Of course, I'm not saying all Africans were Christian, obviously, but like I said, even they had African Christians there, they did not get to all Africans, and these people came and they went to Africans that other Africans did not evangelize, and they evangelized them by the Spirit of God. You know, these true Christian missionaries. Okay, thank you, Quinn. And God blessing to your co-host as well.
Yeah, okay. So back to you, John, and I want you to elucidate on the question I asked. How do you feel? Do you feel because we see what is happening right now in Europe, and it is said that this is stemming from the fact that especially the French, they don't have all of the resources that they were able to just get at almost almost non-payment prices and so forth. So how do you envision Europe is going to take this, and what effect this might have on the whole global sphere? Because what is happening in the United States is in Australia and so on and so forth has a link to that. So give me your perspective.
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate again that it's resources. You know, the gentleman who called just a moment ago, there's a lot that he said. You know, is very interesting. True, untrue. It depends on which side of faith you want to be on, and how you want to interpret history. I think, in my opinion, back in the day of King Leopold, or back in the day of slavery, the slave trade in the UK, in the Europe, and across from Africa to the Caribbean and to the Americas, the ammunition the businessmen would use in those days would have been the Bible.
Yes,
it would have been the Bible. You'd send in missionaries. What else? You arm them with tracts or with Bibles.
Well, the last caller will disagree on you with that. But go ahead.
Okay, you would do that. I mean, that you had to sort of. You had to get to the people. How do you get to the people? You want to make a deal with the people. You can't just go in somewhere and just, you have to make some steps if you want to do things properly.
Yes.
And if you want to wage war, of course you can just go in and slaughter. But war is a very, very, we see it on TV, we see it on films, and we don't really understand what war is really about.
Yes.
War is a really terrible thing.
Yeah.
So you don't want to do that if you want to make business.
Yeah.
They're not going into Africa in the 1400s to annihilate people. They just want to go get the resources. Okay. Now these days, people are still looking for resources, But what are they using instead of the Bible? The media, social media, TV,
Hold
the news.
hold a second. We have a caller. Hello, caller. I'd like you to interject so we can at least hear your voice.
Yes. Good morning, man. Good morning, Quint.
Yes.
And good morning to you. Good morning to your guests as well.
Yes.
Yeah, Quint. Me personally, man, I was just waiting to figure out if this was an independent paid segment or can we talk anything on here right now?
Well, yes, you can. You can. So express yourself. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks for that, man. And I'm gonna say something here, right, this morning, right? Before you went to the break, you said you was gonna try to bring this gentleman, tickle his mind, whatever, to bring him right up to current, right?
Yes.
And get him to delve in a little bit deeper. And we've been having a lot of great discussions on here, and me personally, the interaction sometimes is really good. And this gentleman that's here, I know he has a wealth of knowledge, and I've listened to him. He's been on here several times before. I know he has a passion for music, and he has that knowledge on that side too. And him as an elder, right? And he's talking about a variety of stuff right now already. And I want to also roll with you and try to get him to, tickle his mind, get him to delve in deeper. And the two areas I want to go into is that Venezuela built up down there. We've been having I heard him mention war just now. I want him to bring out his views on what's going on down there in the Southern Caribbean with the build-up of the U.S. military, and also the biggest topic and issue we've been talking about for weeks now, that SSD law and that proposed enclave on Nevis. What I want to, he don't really have to go deeper than he wants to, but I want him to at least talk about the historical side of it. Because there's a historical side to it, our lands, the history of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis up to this moment, how we were able to come out of slavery, put our hands on those lands, and then now one of the resources that we have is our lands. We are now losing our lands to foreign developers. And Quinn, you played a clip right before, and we had some discussions sometime back on negotiations of our leaders. When you was asking questions to the leader of PAM, not because she's a lady, is she ready for negotiations if she gets to that helm?
Yes.
You remember when you was talking about stuff like that?
Yes.
So the two parts of the the enclave on Nevis, the Destiny. Let me point directly to the Destiny project. We don't have the transparency that we need as citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, right? And there is two parts or three parts. One that I'm concerned about, the conflict of interest that exists with that project, with the premier as a leader in the public office, and a spouse of him is an intermediate between the landowners and the developers. That's one. And then I go into the clip that you played before, and I'm going to pull 2 points out of that. These 2 points might be intermingled. When it comes to the negotiations, right, the weakness of our leaders in negotiations, the default liability in the clip that you just played, the default liability on the government side is going to cost St. Kitts and Nevis too much if the government side is to default. It can possibly be a total takeover of Nevis. That's number one. And then number two, the fact that I hear the Premier state something about...
You mean number three? You mean number three?
Well, yeah, these second and third point might be intertwined.
Okay.
When I hear the Premier mention about not having, or if a subsequent government would default, we know government is continuous, right? So if he is negotiating now, why is he putting a future government in a position where they will have to absorb tremendous loss in terms of the government side defaulting? Because on the clip that you played, the developer side, they're only going to be responsible, I think, for $75 million if they default on their side. But at the point where the future government may default, the developers would already done spend so much money that they can possibly grab more lands and overtake a massive amount of lands, more than what they're targeting for the project. And that's I'll leave it right there.
Okay, but before you go, I want you to, because you said you want to delve into the mind of our guest, so I want you to name the 1 or 2 points specifically that you want him to address, because just now you were very broad. So I want you to pinpoint the 2 points that you want him to address. The Venezuela is one. The Venezuela is one.
The Destiny project coming to Nevis in terms of the land to grab.
Yes. Okay.
The land grab.
Okay.
Because over there on the southeast side of Nevis, 238 acres of land has already gone back to, I think, the National Bank because of the land for debt swap. So from here going forward, because of the facilitation of this SSC law, it is putting St. Kitts and Nevis in a big risk in terms of our lands. So I'm focusing on the lands and the historical context of our lands, the way how we got our lands coming out of slavery, and whether I can get his opinion, what he feels about our lands just being thrown away back to the foreign rich people now.
Okay.
I mean, he can talk and say, even if I'm not articulating and pinpointing the points, I can still get his general, take on what's happening currently right now in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Okay, you're going to listen off here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, man. Thanks.
Okay, cool. You may go ahead, John.
I've made some notes here. And he's conveniently following what I was saying before. It's about the resources. Yeah, it's all about resources.
Let's first address what's happening in Venezuela.
Okay, resources. It's resources. And then smoke screening, non-transparency, lack of diplomacy, bad foreign policies. All that is going on in Grenada, and we're in the middle of all that. But it's about resources. I think I don't have to really explain what's going on, because I think it's there for everybody to see. And what surprises me with people around is that I don't feel people are afraid or shocked with what's going on there. The Venezuelan situation is very, very, very serious.
Yes, it is.
For us Caribbean people.
Yeah.
We went through slavery, and we know about that. We went through emancipation. We know about that. And then we went through this really very bad time from the early 1900s, 1910, 1920s, up to about 1930s. It's about 30 years of poverty. And we got through that through unionization. We got through that through people like Bradshaw, and of course the Pan-African movement was going on very well in Europe in the 1930s, and unionization was going on pretty strongly around the world. So St. Kitts piggybacked on that, and the whole Caribbean, but it got us through. And then bring us right up to date now. We've always thought the Caribbean is a safe place. There's nuclear war going on. Is it far enough away from us? There is conflicts in the Middle East or China, but now that type of conflict is next door, and they're involved in our politics.
Yeah.
In Grenada, that's part of the OECS.
Yes.
That's us. It's us. The situation in Trinidad, it's us. It's CARICOM. So, and it's not just a couple of sending a British naval ship when we have a hurricane, or or pick up some students, like if there was a problem with America airdropping, picking up some of their nationals. It's not that. It's the biggest aircraft carriers in the world.
Yeah.
Coming over 10,000 people, soldiers with guns, right there. That's our population of Nevis coming in our region. And the question is, what are they coming for? Resources, or protection of resources. And I think that, for my personal opinion, is that there's smoke screening there again. I believe it's not really Venezuela. I'm going to say something. I think it's Guyana.
I agree with you.
I think
too.
it's Guyana.
I believe
and that
it's
makes
both.
It
I believe it's both. I believe it's both. I believe they're coming under the guise of just Venezuela, but I believe it's both Guyana and Venezuela because of the recent discovery in the Essequibo region.
Absolutely.
And the dispute between the both. Yes, I would.
That's what it's about, I think.
Yes.
Because Venezuela has got crude oil, which is non-processed oil.
Yes.
And the processed oil needs to be sent to America, which has been done for quite a while.
Yes.
They've been sending it up there, but America said they don't want it. And of course, Venezuela, with their friends in the east, they've sent it over there instead. Okay. Now the oil that's in Guyana, it also needs to be processed. So the question is, who's going to get that oil? Now, if Guyana is left to do whatever they want to do with it, Guyana, politically, will not align themselves with America. They will not.
You think so?
No. Well, if they would, well, it's difficult to say. We don't know. We don't know.
Well, I asked that question because I might want to lean towards your statement, but if I follow what Afanadi has been saying, it seems as if though from the beginning he seemed like he wanted to lean towards America, but it seems as if as he's seeing what is evolving and he's looking at the future and seeing how it could play out, he's now trying to backtrack from it, which is I feel would be wise to do.
Well, I think if he politically he should go to America, because by going to America means that he saves his land from the Venezuelans. Yeah, yes. So, but then idealistically, he cannot really go that way because if he goes to the Americas, it means that the war would then be against Venezuela and the Americans, and that's the situation we have at the moment. So I think the smoke screen, the blowing up of the boats and the drug terrorists, we'll call it drug terrorism.
Yeah.
That's smoke screens, and I believe what they're waiting for now is to see how long they can play out this game. Or this waiting game, but of course the Russians have come into the region now.
The Chinese
are there with the technology. So it's
because you see what happened is that it seemed as if though whether the United States was aware of it or not, or they wanted to play ostrich and put their heads in the sand, they somehow felt that. This is my perception of it, that they could come down, posture, that it was their intention in the first, come down, posture to the extent where the Caribbean leaders now will then lean towards them, and that posturing would have benefited them now because they would now be able to say, okay, all of the Caribbean leaders are on our side, and we are now going to use force against Venezuela, but that posturing has not worked out that way. And now they're in there. We understand that Russia has sent. We have seen pictures of Russian cargo planes landing and letting off arms and so forth. And now we hear that Russian submarines are in the Venezuelan waters. So their posturing now has put them in a position where how are they going to save face from this now? Because the majority of the Caribbean leaders don't agree with them. And you also have friends of Venezuela, who have interests there, and America uses their interests because they use their interests in Guyana to be where they are. So now there's a counter thing, and we don't know how this is going to play out, because from my perspective, I don't know how you see it, but I don't know how America is going to be able to bow out of this and save face. Hello, we have a caller.
Good morning, Quinn.
Yes.
Good morning, Quinn. And good morning to your guest, Neil.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Quinn. And good morning to your guest. My question to the caller concerning the SSV. Quinn, that's a national, I think it's a Nevis?
Yes, he is.
You guess?
Yes.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, my question to him is that if he don't feel that surrounding the SSB with the premier and his wife so much involved, the wife of the real estate person and the premier as the premier Nevis, if he don't think that it's too much a conflict of interest involving the two of them and Quinn and the guest, every legal transaction has to go through the premier office, and it's wrong. If it's so, it's wrong. And we're not going to tolerate them kind of nepotism right in the face of us. We're not going to tolerate it. I'm calling to the Nevian young public to go out and support the rally in Brown Hill right in the face. Have a good morning.
Yeah. I don't know if you can elucidate on that, because that is rather touchy in terms of whether there is a conflict of interest. It would seem that there is a conflict of interest in relation to the premier and his wife. It would seem so.
I think, my personal opinion again, I just have to say that every time.
Yes, and mine's also.
I think what's going on there, it's basically, we have certain ways of doing things in our federation. I'm not saying as black people, I'm not saying as Africans, I'm not saying as whoever. I mean, we as Kittitians and Nevisians. And we've had a kind of a culture and a history of people who we put into a position. They put into a position of a job, whether it's your foreman on the work, whether it's your boss in the office, even going even further, whether it's the clergyman. We respect authority, and I think it's something that has kept us alive. It's in our DNA that by respecting authority, it has helped us to survive. Whether when the man going to come and give you a whip, when you respect that, when children misbehave, an older person in the old days could grab him by the ear and tell him, we get in the strap. We respect authority, and so politically, that has been the thing. We elect these people who go up there to do a job, and I think they kind of get it. The leaders, the politicians, they feel, I believe, that they can do whatever they like, and they are there. They're I'm here to do what I think, and when I've done it, I'm going to come and tell you what I've done, and you're going to have to accept it. And I think that runs straight through. Most of the departments in St. Kitts and Nevis in the government, you get that kind of feeling. Now, that was okay back in the day when we didn't have information. I think I talked about information before. It's a different world out there. We have information. You can't just tell people that's what it is, take it or leave it. In most instances, you can't really leave it. You just have to take it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're at the moment, is that the leaders by either side, whatever color they are,
I agree.
It's like we have to take it, but I don't know that lady who phoned just a moment ago, but just the tone in her voice.
That wasn't a lady. That was a man.
There's a man. Sorry, excuse me, excuse me, sir.
His name is Jam Down, but he has a high pitched voice.
I have the same issue. There's a lady. My name is John.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, and he sounds like an ordinary person. Like we're all ordinary people, and how he can get up and he can say what he said because he's informed.
Yes.
And he's informed to social media. He can think for himself, and he knows what's right and what's wrong. And these days, you get a lot of information all at once, and you can then assess. You can put them in the right order and come out with a conclusion. Back in the old days, you had one piece of information, and 6 months later you get another piece of information. So you couldn't really affect any change whatsoever. Like what's going on in the world today, it would be much different if people didn't have social media to know what's going on. You and I can talk about hypothetical situations in Guyana or in Venezuela because we have information.
Yeah.
And that applies to us here
in
St. Kitts Nevis.
Hold a second. We have a caller. Hello, caller.
Hi, good morning.
Good day.
Good morning to your Quint, and special good morning to your guest there.
Yes.
I didn't get to hear your guest, the gentleman who just spoke, from the beginning. I was traveling on the road, and I know sometimes that you can't get WinnFm in certain areas outside Bastia, so I didn't tune in. But I was just happening this morning and tuning while I was driving, and here he was on the radio.
Yes.
And I follow him until I reached my destination where I am now.
Yes.
And I was able to listen to everything. One thing that struck me when he talked about the African issue, where he talked about the different countries and who try to bleed Africa out of the resources, and of course they've done the same thing to the Caribbean.
Yes.
And now he's saying African is standing up and is now driving out these weapons. But one thing that caught me, he said that Africa has friends who are helping them to do things for themselves. But I wanted to hear him.
Hold a second.
Hi.
I think in that vein he was speaking to Venezuela when he made that statement.
He's right. He's right, Quint.
Before he didn't go on to Venezuela. What I waited for while I drive on the road is for him to mention at least 2 or 3 of those friends who are not going to act as like the Europeans and the French. Well, French is also part of the Europeans. So let me say Europeans and Americans and all the others, the Arabs and Indians and all the others who went into Africa and raped the hell out of Africa.
That's a good
question. So I just wanted to hear him say who these friends are that are helping Africa and who would not do what the past investors, so-called investors, did in Africa. And that is just one. And the other part, again, would be somewhat controversial. Well, that's me. So bear me a bit, and I'll try to bring the second part out.
Yes.
We talk a lot about Venezuela and the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. And the Caribbean is a zone of peace. Venezuela just began to find itself as part of the Caribbean a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
It's in our area, yes, but they never recognize themselves as part of the Caribbean. We know that they're part of OPEC since God knows how long. I think they're one of the founding members of OPEC. The Trinidad oil situation, the pushing of Venezuela had anything to do with the diminishing of oil resources and oil revenue in Trinidad? Is it the same thing now that the Trinidadian government is trying to build back up, but trying their best to make sure that Venezuela doesn't get that influence again to diminish their oil export and oil production and export? Remember that a lot of us in the Caribbean world using Trinidad oil and Trinidad asphalt for years. But after Venezuela began to do something similar to what China is doing, they bring out this, what they call it, they give you oil as a low rate, but then afterwards you can't pay back for it because the interest was so high down the road. And so therefore, a lot of our Caribbean leaders forget, because those of them who are here now weren't in there, so they don't have a clue as to what's going on. But we have to remember that Venezuela was not always recognized as part of the Caribbean. Now, Venezuela, as good as they may seem, while they were oppressing their people, they were giving us money to build houses. While they were oppressing their people, they were giving us money to pay double salary. And so how could we still support a country who oppressed its own people for its own political gain? So that the leaders can look good in the outer world, but inside of their country, people are catching hell. So therefore, Venezuela is not all that good like we are trying to say now, because there's a conflict. And let me say this, and those if any military analysts who do listen to your program, they know fully well that this Venezuela thing is not so much about the drugs, Venezuela and some of the bigger countries who are not sympathetic to the West were planning military exercise in 25-26. And through intelligence, the Americans decide to preempt that and try to blockade that area so that some of the military exercise that they were going to have, which would, of course, bring in military hardware, some which would have posed threat to United States and to the other areas in the Caribbean. And so they decided to preempt that. And so that is why their forces are there. This Venezuela thing is so wide.
Oh,
caller,
I hear you. Hey. I hear you. And I will admit that I am not au fait with every aspect of what is happening in Venezuela.
That's why I say
again.
That's why I say if they are military analysts.
Wait.
Who
again.
Listen to your program. Okay.
Again.
Oh, sorry.
Again. Let me also apologize for not having, because I did not hear the part where John referred to African countries having friends. I must admit I heard the part where he said Venezuela had a friend. So he did say he said that. He did say that. He did confirm that. Okay. He said that. Number one, though, is that just the same how you are trying to refute what we say in terms of Venezuela, right? Which is your right to do. We can also refute what you're saying, because whereas we both have different sides, we're taking different sides here. You would agree with that?
Of course, we read different documents and listen to different documentaries. Yes. Of course.
So we take our stance and you take your stance. Your stance is fed by what you have accepted from. But having said
we're different.
But having said that, though, are you suggesting that because Venezuela has only just recently decided to be a part of the Caribbean, that our zone of peace should be threatened by a superpower who uses I can't even find the expression, but I think John said it perfect. Smoke screening to be in our proximity.
Okay, let me get something in here. Whether it is the United States or other countries, powerful countries, the zone of peace in the Caribbean would have been threatened. That happened in the 60s. You know the Cuban Missile Crisis. That was the first part. The second part was the Grenada part. And none of those were successful. We know that the Russians and the Chinese are showing interest in Argentina. We know where Argentina lies. We know that area used to be a shipping area. We know that there's a problem now with China and the United States with the Panama Canal. You know where that lies. And you know that whoever has influence in that can actually control this part of the world militarily and economically. We know that. So when we are saying that the Americans is doing this and doing that, they are doing that for our interest. Because
I disagree with you. I disagree with you. Let me just input here. I will let you continue, but I just
Yes,
wanted to
you put
interject
that in.
that I disagree with
I
you
accept- I
vehemently.
accept that wholeheartedly.
Yes, yes, go ahead.
The shipping lanes in the Panama Canal and south of Argentina. If those areas fall into hands of governments and entities that are against what we stand for, we will no longer have a zone of peace. We will no longer have a zone of peace. So Britain is just standing by. I don't know why Britain didn't send some forces to bolster what they have on the Falkland Islands in that part of the world. We know that the Americans is trying their best to make sure that Argentina is back up to strength, not only economically but militarily. But I don't know if they're doing anything. Is it possible? And this comes from my circles. Is it possible that there is a 10-year plan to have a channel between Venezuela and the Pacific, going through some of those countries, some of the hills and some of those countries? A 10-year plan. It is not impossible. It is something that can be done, something that probably is in the plans, but we don't see it yet. And these countries, the Americans and their supporters, are trying their best to make sure that they keep control over the shipping lane in these areas. Because if they lose it, they're not the only ones who are going to lose. We're going to lose too. And so therefore, we should not get down too hard on what they're doing. When we know that the Russians are going to bring, as a matter of fact, they had plans to bring one of their supply ships that look like...
Caller,
hold on.
Caller, we're 3 minutes into the next program.
Okay.
So, but I'm going to
Let
allow
me-
you.
let me-
Here,
let me
here's it.
stop,
I'm
let me
going to
stop.
allow you to wrap up, and then I'm going to let John make a final
stop
statement.
here. I hope I can get in sometime next week and we can go along this route. But thank you very much for listening.
Yes. Okay.
I'll stop here. All right.
Okay. John. What do you feel about what he says? America is there to save us and to help us, and they have our interests at heart.
Well, you must go back to the Monroe Doctrine, which is 200 years old, and the Monroe Doctrine says that America owns the whole of the Latin America and the Caribbean, and there is no way anybody else is going to come in there and take control of that. And the Monroe Doctrine is enforced for the Cuban situation,
yes,
for the Grenada situation, God forbid, and even what's going on now in Venezuela.
Yeah,
I disagree with the caller saying Venezuela is not part of the Caribbean. I mean, I remember when I was a young man coming to the Caribbean, and when I arrived in the Caribbean, and they turned on the radio. But I mean, it was just medium wave, and all you could hear on the radio back in the 80s was Radio Caracas. Radio
yes,
Caracas.
I remember that as a young boy.
Radio Caracas was the most loud radio, the best music,
yes,
and
the
you can
best
catch
music.
it all over the Caribbean. You
Yes.
can go up to Puerto Rico, all the way down to Trinidad. You got Radio Caracas. Wonderful music. They were very much part of our culture.
They were.
And then when it comes to the black people, people don't think about the Negroes, of course, Negroes for now, the black people
Yes.
in Latin America, in Colombia, Venezuela, Brazil,
Puerto Rico. Yeah.
There are a lot, Cuba, there are a lot of African people. I mean, black Africans. Could we think of Latin American people look like Miami people or looking like Puerto Rico? But I'm talking about people who look like us.
Yes.
A large percentage of the population of these countries are black people.
Yeah.
And we don't hear about them. The percentages are very high.
When I listened to that caller, I realized that he agrees with what America has done to Cuba and is continuing. He also agreed with their invasion in Grenada, and he's now agreeing again with what is happening in Venezuela. So it seems to me, from my perspective, that he has bought into whatever the Americans put forward for whatever reason. That is why I had to interject and say that I vehemently disagree with his statements. Hello, caller. You have to be brief because I'm only trying to be accommodating. Hello, go ahead and be as quick as possible.
Quick.
Yes.
Quick. Yeah, just a reminder, man. I would like to get him to touch on the historical context of our land.
Well, that is not going to be today because we have a program that was previously aired that we have to play back. So
Okay, no problem, man. No problem at all. Yeah,
Okay.
Thanks, man. You guys have a good day. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
Wrapping up, I think the Venezuela or the Gulf of the now called the Gulf of America and the Caribbean Sea, back in the 1912, 1914. The Germans were in the region. People don't realize that the Germans were here with their submarines. And what were they here to do? They were here to take or to disrupt the oil that was coming from Venezuela into America back in the 1914 before and 1912, 1914. Because when I read history and said, well, why was the German having U-boats in the Caribbean? What are they there for? And they were there to disrupt the oil flow from Venezuela into America. Yeah. And so that is only recently come out, that information.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Are you aware that oil has been discovered in Trinidad and Tobago?
Oh, oil's been there for a long time.
Okay. So when the caller is saying that about the Venezuelan oil and what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago, I want him to also be aware of the Dragon deal where oil was coming through from Venezuela and then being refined in Trinidad and Tobago refinery. But the controllers of those refineries were U.S. And a part of what is happening now and why they're down here is to do with that very same Dragon deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going on. And
Yes.
that's why Trinidad is siding with America,
that's
not
it.
because of the cultural or reasons for that. Because if the American win, it means that Trinidad
will
would benefit
yeah.
from that, and they
Yes,
can have their
yeah.
oil refined.
That's it. So let's take a... Well, that's it for... And it has been interesting.
But we haven't spoken any music. We haven't spoken about Carnival.
Well, I guess there will be other times. And you would realize that the atmosphere is such that people want to be varied in their topics.
That is very true.
And I always acquiesce to whatever they want to discuss. I might bring it, But thank you for being here. It has been good. And we know that you're not a stranger, okay? Take care.
Thank you very much indeed.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. WinnFm.